So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom and another rambles from me. So going to have a look at some of the news this week. It's a little bit quieter than normal, mainly because of the patch that came in, patch 9.2.1. But we're going to look at a bit of the changes there, some of the matchmaking changes, also proposed changes to one of the Russian medium lines, which is kind of cool. And a new map. Yes, I know, a new map. Would you believe it? Would you Adam and Eve it? A new map coming. So anyway, let's crack on. First of all, new patch went in for North America and EU and Russia on Wednesday morning for us. And it seems to have a few teething problems, shall we say. So I expect we'll get some more patches coming through because the chat function is not working. You can't see your friends. Yesterday I tried to play and I couldn't even see my clan mates on it, even though they were online, because I could see them in TeamSpeak. Similarly, the graphics seem to be screwing up, and someone said sound also seems to be screwing people up. Certainly when I was streaming on Wednesday night, my whole game froze, and I had to hard boot in the end the whole computer, which seemed to be cured by turning the graphics down, even though they were on the recommended setting that World of Tanks gave me, which is a little bit frustrating. And one of the viewers said that I forget who it was, but I think it was you, wasn't it, Indiana, that one of the other streamers had a similar problem, having to turn their frame rate down. So it's clearly a problem with whatever they've installed. So I would expect we will have another patch fairly soon to fix some of the problems, of which there seem to be quite a few. But on the whole, the new update seems to come in quite well. You can't move for Super Conquerors out there. It'd be interesting to see what people think about the new British upgraded tanks. They look fantastic from what I've seen. TD upgrades and so forth. So really exciting patch, but let me know down below what you think of it. So one of the things that's supposed to have come in with the .1 patch that we just had this week is improvements to matchmaking. Now, I've long been a critic of the system, and nobody who watches this channel will be surprised. I'm very skeptical about anything to do with the matchmaking. I think it's broken in a big way. But to give credit where credit's due, they are at least trying, or appear to be trying, to fix things. With this patch, they are trying to match up kind of roles of the vehicles. So you know what it's like. You log into your tier 8 game, your bottom tier, of course. You look at all your top tier tanks, and they are light tanks or lightly armored tanks. You look at the enemy top tier tanks, and there's three mouses, whatever, and you go, well, and it's a city map, and you just think, what's the point? Well, you don't. You play as well as you can, but you still lose. And what they're trying to do with this new matchmaking is to balance that out. So instead of having three mice on one side, you'd have two on each side to balance each other out. And that's the theory with this. So we'll see how that works out. Similarly, you know, light tanks, autoloaders, that sort of thing. So it all gets balanced out based on vehicle roles, which we'll see. The other thing they've apparently changed, and again we will see how this pans out because I'm fascinated by it, a better chance of for platoon players. So we know, and they confirmed it here actually, this is Daily Bounce, but it's a well-known fact. I've never managed to find it, but it's definitely been talked about in the past, that when you platoon with people you get much worse matchmaking, and certainly the stats bear that out. And they deliberately did this because they reckon that platoon players have a better chance in a game because they can work together. Now, not all platoons work together, but that's the theory. You know, you're on a TeamSpeak or something like that, you're talking to each other and you can coordinate your activities. And that was the theory why they well, basically hamstrung platoons so that you have much lower chance of being top tier in it. Particularly at the higher tiers. So what they've apparently done now is to slightly tweak that, so you have an equal chance of getting, well, you have a higher chance of being in top of the tree when you're in a platoon than you previously did. They haven't said that it's still the same as if a solo player, but at least a bit better chance is better than nothing. So I'll be interested to see how that changes the stats in the next few weeks and months, as I continue to keep my file of games. So they're also saying there should be equal chances of getting top, middle, or bottom for different classes. And again, you don't have to play that many games to know that when you come out with a tier 8 light tank at tier 8 seem to get top tier more often than any other class. And as I've said in videos myself, is that I think they've ruined lights as a class, because when you are top tier in a game, one of the chosen 3 in a light tank, you can't any longer play the role of a scout. You have to become a main battle tank, because otherwise your team is missing a main battle tank. So you kind of have to play that role out, and that changes the nature of lights. They're now main battle tanks, not lights or not scouts, and your teams generally suffer, particularly in some maps. I've seen I'm sure we all have, light tanks going out and fighting out with the heavies in the heavy area, and then next they get killed, of course, and then you are desperate for a scout to spot in place TDs that you know that they would have been spotted by your light tanks, but it's long dead because they were fighting out as a heavy. So they're saying that they're going to tweak this so that basically that heavy and mediums get a better balance out, because they seem to end up in single tier battles more often than any other class, and so forth. So again, we'll keep an eye on this and see how it works. And in grand battles, you've got a better chance of being in the grand battles. That will help make Shoot a bit happier, because he's always moaning about he never gotten any grand battles in tier 10. So we'll see. Let me know. Anyway, let me know what you think about the matchmaking. Obviously it's early days for me. I've only played a few hours on the new patch. I can't say I saw an awful lot of change. In fact, we'll hop along in a second and have a look at where I am with my tier 8 matchmaking percentages. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think, though, the changes to platoon is definitely to be applauded. I haven't played much platooning since I kept this record going, not at tier 8 anyway, we've mainly been 9s and 10s, so it's difficult to know, but it would be great if there was a little bit more understanding about, so you're not hamstrung for playing in platoons, because at the end of the day, part of the reason we all play this is a bit social, a bit of chatting with your teammates, and if you get penalised for being in a platoon, then that just takes away a lot of the fun of the game. So anyway, let me know what you think. So as you know, Sado that I'm keeping a record of all my regular tier 8 matchmaking games. So this is everything that's not preferential matchmaking, and can be either regular tech tree tanks or premium tanks, doesn't matter as long as they're tier 8s. So I've now done 177 games solo in a tier 8. Of them, currently my percentage of getting in a tier 10 match is 48.5, which is slightly improved on the last week's number, which was 48.6, so not an awful lot of difference. Getting in tier 9s in 59 of those 177 gives me 33.3, so a third of my games are in tier 9s, which again is slightly improved on 33.9. I don't know whether this is the new matchmaker changes, we shall see. But of those tier 9s, 31 of them were in matches where you are in a 5-10 setup. Actually, that's wrong. It's 10 tier 8 game tanks, obviously not tier 10s. Anyway, so yeah, still quite a large predominance of top tier. So a large chunk of my games are either tier 9s or tier 10s. Tier 8s in 32 games, so 18% of my games have been top tier, of which was 17.4 last time I did this. But of that, only 20 out of my 177 I was one of the chosen 3, 11 times I was in all tier 8 game and just once in a 5-10 game. So there you go. Interesting, maybe. Don't know how that reflects what you guys are seeing. Certainly seems to be how most people are seeing it. Some people have suggested they get much worse than this, that I'm actually quite fortunate, but still 18% of my matches in a tier 8 tank and I'm getting top tier. And not all of those are properly top tier either, because a game where everything is tier 8 is not really top tier. Everything's top tier, everything's middle tier, everything's bottom tier, isn't it? Anyway, I shall start the stats again for next week, and see how the new matchmaking has changed that. So anyway, so blow me over. It appears that we may be getting a new map. Well, I say a new map, it sort of looks very similar to some of the old maps, but it's a new map, so I'll take that. So this is Status Report talking about the super testing of a new map called Minsk, which is basically, for those who don't know, is where Wargaming is headquartered, Minsk. So this is apparently historically accurate modelling of downtown Minsk, so the Trotsky suburb. Looks very like Pilsen with a railway line down. Well, the Pilsen sort of has a railway. Yeah, looks very similar indeed. Built up area, open area, middle area. Again, very corridor, very distinct areas for different people to operate. Mediums and lights out here, presumably artillery coming down here, sitting here and here. Few brave souls going up and down this bit, and then the brawlers, the heavy tanks and the assault guns all operating amongst all these buildings. But hey, I'm not going to criticise. I'm one who desperately wants new maps, and we've got a couple of run-throughs now. Bear in mind these are very rough at this stage versions, so you can't. Let's just turn the volume off for a minute. It's not being finalised model wise, but you get a sense of what they're looking at. So there's two variants they're looking at. One is a summer one and one is a winter one. Winter Wonderland. It looks like a bigger version of Ensk that's sort of morphed with Pilsen. But you know, as I say, any new maps I'm happy with, just to get a bit of variety. It's when the same map keeps coming round and round and round. So although the city area, this is what I thought was, looking at the map, was the sort of heavy area, but actually it's not. It's a bit more open than I was expecting. A bit like Kharkov or Stalingrad here out on this flank. Would be nice if they made the minimap a little bit bigger. We could see where we were in relation to the rest of the map. So we're heading south down the 9 line. Big wide open bits. As you can see, it's all work in progress. Interesting. Quite a big central area there. Isn't it weird they've got certain things modelled already, like the railway lines, the trams were there, buses, there's a crane, and yet most of the buildings are still just blocks. Oh well, whatever. So we're heading now towards the red cap, which is pretty open. So no idea when this will see the light of day, but if it's in super test, and they did say that once the HD maps were done we might start seeing new maps coming into the game, so fingers crossed their word is their bond, because we always believe what Wargaming say, don't we? But anyway, the fact they've done this run through, they've talked about the various map, or this new map, one would hope this means that we will be seeing this soon. So there's an interesting railway embankment here. That'll be a good position for TDs to hide. the golf course there. I don't think it's really a golf course. Anyway, there you go. That's the that's Minsk. Looking at this as a possible new map. As I say, there's a winter variant they're working on and a summer variant. This is obviously the summer run through, so interesting and to be applauded. Any new map is a good new map. I don't really care if they're unbalanced, as long as the only time when you really worry about unbalanced maps, from my perspective, is correct me if I'm wrong, keep me honest, but if you see the same map time and time again, then it kind of matters a lot more whether it's balanced or not. If you only see a map once every 20 games, for instance, and it's slightly imbalanced, it's less of an issue, for me at least. Just the fact we got new maps is all that I really care about. I just get so frustrated when you get the same one just rotating round and round. So there you go, quick look at Minsk. Let me know what you think. Excited? Just another rerun of all the other maps, or what? I just like new maps. Wish it was a bit different, but I guess what can you do? You've got to have something that suits all troop types, all tank types, and this appears to do that. It's quite a big map by the look of it, which is also to be applauded. I like bigger maps. Anyway, let me know. So Wargaming are continuing to review the tech trees and see whether there's a consistency and a logic between the flow between the different tanks along it. So you know what I mean, that you come out of one tier, you move to the next tier, and that tank has similarities in terms of playstyle, characteristics of the vehicle, etc., etc., rather than them jumping around all over the place. That's kind of why they're looking to move out the Death Star from the Tortoise line, because Tortoise is a very rapid firing, high DPM type gun, and then you move to the tier 10 and the Death Star is a big derpy thing. The playstyles are very different, or should be anyway. So the next one they're looking at is one of the Soviet medium lines, the Object 430 line, and basically what they're looking at, and this is all in super test, so no guarantee it will happen, but generally when they start looking at these things, it does. They're planning to move the tier 9 and the tier 10 down a tier, so the 9 will become 8, the 10 will become 9, and then bring in a brand new tier 10, the Object 430U. And the current tier 8, the Object 416, the bedpan, will be removed from the game entirely, with the A44 being buffed to fit better at tier 7. So that's kind of what they're looking at. So this is what they're looking at. Where are we? Here we go. This is the line. So you would go A43 at tier 6, A44 at tier 7, Object 432 at tier 8, the Object 430, which is currently the tier 10, would drop down to 9, and then this new one would come in here at tier 10. That's the concept behind it. So the objective of this change is to make the whole branch, basically from tier 6 upwards, to be medium tanks which have strong frontal armour, good mobility, and high single shot alpha guns. So, and they don't think the Object 416 fits within that because it's got very low armour values, and you play it more like a TD than you do a medium. Very, very, very effective gun. So that's the thought process behind this. So you can see the proposed upgrade to the A44. I won't go through all of these, but you can check it out on the Daily Bounce. There's the 430 stroke 2, which has been, they'll still all be rear mounted turrets, but have better frontal armour. That's the theory. And then the Object 430, which is currently the tier 10, dropped down to tier 9. Armour goes 120 frontal armour, hull, and 240 turret. Very low silhouette, very low, very good bounceability on those things. And then the new tier 10 is this Object 430U, 2000 hit points, 160 hull frontal armor, which is going to be very, very well angled. 300 turret armor is amazing. I mean, look how rounded that thing is. That's going to bounce all over the place. Hull traverse and turret traverse are pretty darn good. 38 degrees per second and 52 degrees per second is outstanding. Top speed of 50, reverse of 18 is excellent. Penetration on the main gun 252, 340 with presumably heat shells, and 68 with HE. 440 average damage, but dispersion of 0.4 is pretty rubbish, and aim time of 2.3 is also pretty rubbish. 10.2 load time is pretty horrible as well. So yeah, it's going to be, like they're saying, a big alpha gun with a mobile tank that has pretty good armor. So the idea is presumably you dive out of cover, derp somebody in the back or the side, and then use your mobility to get out of dodge. And if anybody happens to fire at you, you've got the armor that may well troll them and bounce a few shells off. So interesting concept. We'll have to see how that plans out. So here's some eye candy shots of the new object. Nice looking tank, not rear mounted like the others though. Looks kind of fun. That turret looks absolutely evil. I mean, that's just so well rounded, you're going to struggle to pen that thing, aren't you? Anyway, there you go. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. So armor values, have a look at those. Look at all the reds there. Just going to be brutal. Very low silhouette, very low slung. Rear and top is pretty weak, so you might suffer from being shot down on. But that does look a bit of a beastie. Although very, very slow reload values on it. So yeah, don't know how effective it will be. We will have to see when it appears and if it appears, because like all these things, it's in super test, so it could change, it could remain the same. But let me know, what do you think? Good move to bring in a new tier 10, shuffle that line around. I think they also need to look at the new Swedish line. So that is one of the newer lines, but you know, you look at the that main battle tank line, you go from a light tank to a medium tank single shots, then up to auto loading heavy tanks. Just crazy. Please forget it. Doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll see whether they look at that at some points, whether they've got enough tanks to fill it. That's the key thing. But thoughts down below. So just a little side note for our Anzac friends out there. Looks like Wargame are investing in a new server. So from 1st of November, Australia and New Zealand tank players will be able to log on to a brand new peripheral server to help with the game lag. So it will only be operating between 6 PM and 12 AM each day, but still, that's pretty good. You basically have to have an Asian account, and then you just log in as normal, but using it as an option. So it's interesting. They're saying that people who have accounts on the North American server will be allowed to register for their accounts to be transferred over to this new server. So that's kind of cool. And I guess 6 PM to 12 AM is when majority of players are online. So yeah, good. Nice to see that. I wonder if they'll start doing that for some of the other regions, but I know particularly Asian region was really hard for some players, given the distances for the widgets and dots and zeros to go, meant the lag was sometimes pretty horrendous. So new server, good, welcome. Anyway, I hope you found this edition interesting. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. In the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously, and I'll see you again soon. This is GamerDom signing out.